Welcome back to day 24 of our month-long 31-day Halloween story spookathon. That's right, we're doing a spooky story every day, and we're in for the final stretch. So check out our playlist if you're just joining us so you can catch up. If you loved classic horror movies from the 80s, you're going to love today's tale. Without further ado, I present Nightmare on Archer Row by Dr. Zinc from the SCP Wiki. The night air was crisp, not too warm, not too cold. The night sky was clear, full moon, no clouds. One would say it was the perfect night for today's celebration. The children walking up and down the street were brimming with energy. The houses on Archer Row were decked with spider webs, gravestones, scarecrows, skeletons, and carved pumpkins. Well, most houses anyway. A large man in a zombie mask, hoodie, and jeans walked down the street. He was looking at the houses and not much else. A group of kids in costumes with bags of candy ran past him. The man had no quarrel with them. They were enjoying the night. In their excitement, they didn't see the very real and sharp gardening shears he had in his hand. The being typically spent this night walking through neighborhoods like this. Every year he did this, and then he slept for the rest of it. He knew someone told him to do this, although he couldn't remember who. He found what he was looking for, a dull, boring house that was not festive in the slightest. Not even a single pumpkin or bowl of candy. That simply couldn't do. The man walked up to the house without hesitation and tried the door. It was open. He listened for a television to see if it at least was playing a special. It was playing a trashy reality show. He shook his head before he closed the door silently, walked to the back, and found the breaker box. He cut the wires with precision. After all, he had done it before. The power went out in the house. The lone occupant of the house, an older single woman, panicked as the being entered the back door by breaking the glass, a sound muted to the outside world by his presence. The woman got up to run and scream from him, but the moment her feet hit the ground, she stumbled and lost her breath. She tried crawling, but she suddenly became very exhausted as the being walked slowly to catch up to her. He knew she could not run from him. She tried to reach her landline, but it was futile as the being was already atop her as his shears pierced the back of her neck. The blood ran off his clothes like it was nothing. It stayed on his shears, however. He took off his glove, revealing a normal hand. He dipped his fingers in the pool of blood, and he drew a picture of a pumpkin on the living room wall with it. He then drew more decorative images on other walls in an effort to make the house festive. The being returned the glove to his hand. He then pulled his shears back out of her neck, causing more blood to flow from the wound. He looked around, satisfied with his work. The house was now properly spooky. He figured, however, he should work on his drawing skills. His ghost looked like a cartoon, not to mention his terrible attempt at a skeleton. But decorations were decorations, as long as they were in the spirit of the season. He went into the kitchen, the darkness not slowing him down. He searched the pantry and fridge for something sweet. He found chocolate, although there wasn't much there. If he had the time, he would make the sweets himself. It didn't matter. He still had to patrol the night, punishing those who didn't celebrate. The being left the house and left the chocolate on the porch. "Yep, that's the anomaly, all right," the ginger MTF operative leader said as he lowered binoculars after looking at the being leave a gray house. They were camped out at the neighborhood pool house, which was cleared out for the season. The homeowners association didn't bother to decorate the building, making it a prime target for the anomaly. The MTF squad had their weapons stored away for an ambush. "Looks like the doc's predictive pattern was correct," the tall MTF operative muttered in between swings of his bat. "It's just a shame that we had to let it kill someone before we could engage." She'll come back to life in the morning. It just seems like it wants to pull a cruel prank. It does, however, bother me to an unbelievable level on why it does this. Sometimes I hate this job," the bald MTF operative retorted. "Keep talking like that and you'll get sacked and gaslighted," the tall one said with a smile. "Besides, you know what the doctor said. If we apprehended some random person, then we would miss the opportunity to get the anomaly until next year," the bald one responded. "Can someone please remind me why I'm the one in the nurse's costume? I'm really missing my guns," the final MTF operative on the team complained. It was one of those thin, cheap costumes that sat on the shelf until Thanksgiving. "Because you have the most experience talking with anomalies," the MTF leader said drearily. "You are also the youngest on the team. We need to get it to the pool house somehow." "And you lost the other day's bet," the tall one added. "You bet that the D-class died in that collapse. We believed in him." She just huffed. The leader activated his radio. "Spook leader to haunted house. Preparing for engagement. Copy." The radio responded. "Haunted house to spook leader. Proceed. Over." "Right. Spook 2. Get out there." She sighed and picked up the bag of candy that was assembled by the Foundation. The being was on the search once again. A young woman, possibly a teenager, bumped into him. "Oh, I'm sorry." She dropped her bag, slightly spilling its contents. The being only grunted in response. As the woman bent over to pick up her spilt candy, she looked him up and down. "Well, aren't you festive? You know, I just love this season. The atmosphere is what really makes me love it." She was lying through her teeth, of course. He started to walk away. "But hey!" She tried to move in front of him. "You know who isn't festive? The neighborhood pool. I say we go over to it and vandalize the shit out of it. What do you think?" The being did not say anything, but agreed with her. Looking at the pool house, it wasn't decorated at all, and there seemed to be people inside not celebrating as well. He started moving towards the building, ignoring the young woman as she continued to talk. Her voice trailed away as she let him walk away toward the pool house. "That was easier than I thought it would be," she said when he left hearing distance. The nurse turned around and dug in her bag and pulled out a radio. "Spook 2 to Spook Leader. Target is moving to your location. Over." "Spook Leader to Spook 2. Confirmed. Get suited up. Over." The leader responded over the radio. "You two, get ready for the ambush." The bald and the tall MTF operatives both went into side hallways as the leader stood in the main room with his sidearm. He once again spoke to his radio. "Remember, we can't run away from it. We sedate this thing now or we die. And trust me, even if you come back, dying isn't fun. No retreating." The tall one couldn't help but see the bald one praying. He finished, and then he asked the tall MTF, "Why do you still have that bat? I don't think that'll help you win against a supernatural killer." "Hey, look, I got a really good swinging arm. You never know when that'll help. I don't judge you for praying." The leader chimed in. "Both of you, hush up. It's almost here." The being broke down the front door, and the leader immediately shot him with tranquilizers. The 3 syringes sticking out of him seemed to have no effect as he charged the leader. The sidearm ran out of ammunition. The leader looked at his gun and then back up. The leader ran at him, and just as they were going to collide, slid on the ground past him. The being tried to turn around, but the bald and the tall MTF operative started firing more tranquilizers at him. He then growled like an animal and threw his shears at the bald one. As he tried to dodge, one of his legs buckled and the shears embedded itself in his shoulder. He gritted his teeth and moved behind his corner. The being swiped at his front and the syringes fell. The tall one also fell back behind his corner, losing his breath. The leader stabbed the being in the back with a combat knife, and it didn't bleed. It grabbed the leader's arm, threw him out in front of itself, and started walking slowly toward him. The tall MTF shot at it with a reel gun, the bullets causing him to make it recoil a small bit, but not much else. It picked up the leader in a chokehold, and the tall one held his fire. The being threw the leader at the tall MTF, breaking the leader's back. It started to walk to the bald one. As the being rounded the corner, it saw the bald MTF with a shotgun. It was shot and slid back a small bit, but before he could reload, the being ripped the shears from his shoulder and slashed his neck. It turned to the two on the ground. The being slowly walked over to the MTF on the ground, but halfway there, it was shot in the side of the head with a tranquilizer. It turned its head to see the girl from earlier, now in full MTF gear. She shot more rounds into the anomaly. It was noticeably slower, but it kept moving. She swore as she ran out of syringes. She tried to take a step back, but she stumbled and fell backward. She tried crawling away, but her hand slipped as she tried to move. The being was getting closer. The tall MTF member picked up one of his weapons, ran up to the being, and swung a metal baseball bat at its head. A loud metal clang rang through the room just before the thump of its body hitting the ground. The room stood still, with the only sound being the two MTF breathing heavily. Their eyes met, and they both shared an understanding. The metal bat clanged to the ground as the tall MTF ran to check up on his fallen comrades. The other functioning MTF member got up and ran over to the being and secured its hands behind its back with strong metal restraints. She also pulled back the mask from its neck, revealing a tattoo that said, "Mr. Slasher Villain," before stabbing a large syringe into it containing a very strong and heavy sedative. The tall one activated his radio. "Spook 3 to Haunted House. The target is neutralized. Spook Leader and Spook 4 are down. Requesting cleanup. Over." I can't lie, I really enjoy a good SCP story, and this one was fun. My only complaint was it felt a bit cut off and short. I wanted to see this go further, but as far as I could tell, it didn't have any other parts. So, if you want to heckle the author into writing more about this one, visit Dr. Zinc on the SCP Wiki. I have their link down below, as well as our ongoing giveaway that ends on Halloween at midnight EST 2023. Now, I have a quick question before we wrap up. Just indulge my curiosity. Do you dress up for Halloween, even if you're all grown up? I'd love to know what you're dressing up as this year, or what was your favorite costume ever? I never really grew up, so I guess that answers your question if you're wondering about me. And one of my better costumes I made one year was Poison Ivy from Batman. Anyway, Rosebuds, that's a wrap. Until we meet back here again tomorrow night, thanks for sticking with me until the end. Take care and stay creepy.